Doug.
Hi, Beth. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Good. It's time for another rotation.
It is. This time it's on the parable of the talents, which is found in the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 25, verses 14 to 30.
Good. Yeah, Matthew has a lot of parables.
Yeah.
This is a good one.
It is.
Yeah.
So in this story, there's the master, there's 3 servants, and the master is going on a trip.
Okay.
And so he trusts the servants with talents. And back in biblical ancient times, a talent was 1,000 gold coins or
something. Yeah, there's
large amount of money.
Yeah, there's different ideas as to exactly how much it was, but it was a large amount of money.
Yeah, we've
very
heard
valuable.
Anywhere from 2 years worth of laborers' work to 15 years. So a huge sum of money.
A large, valuable amount.
So for the first servant, he gave 5 talents. And the second servant, he gave 2. And the third servant, he gave 1. And then he went off on his trip. And he came back for an accounting. And the first servant said, hey, I took these 5 talents and I doubled them. And the second one said, I took the 2 and I doubled them. And both of them got great praise. And the third servant said, I was nervous or afraid or anxious, and so I wanted to keep safe what you had entrusted to me, so I buried it in the ground, and here you go.
And he makes a very telling statement. He says, I knew you to be a harsh man to the master, and so I buried it away for fear of losing it, and he gives it back. And
the master's
not happy.
Not happy.
That's right. He takes that one, the one with the 1 talent, he takes the talent from him, and gives it to the one with the 2 talents, I believe. And he sends him out into the darkness, it says. So we're going to be unpacking the story in Sunday school.
Yeah, we are. And so, but tell us more, Pastor Doug, about how so the master in this parable refers to Jesus. The servant refers to us. The trip is referring to
Jesus' ascension into heaven.
Yep. Yeah. And the time that from his ascension to when he returns.
Will come again.
Talents are referring to our God-given gifts and abilities. And actually, that's where the term talent comes from. It comes from this parable and our.
You are very talented. You have something of great value that God has entrusted to you. One of the commentaries I read talked about how the master does not give them these talents, but loans them to them or puts his trust in them that they will use these talents. I think that's a neat, just a little twist on our understanding of even the skills and abilities that we have, that they are really on loan to us from God.
Yeah,
we're supposed to use them.
We're an extension of God, or you've heard the phrase, we are the hands of God.
Yeah, so...
and there's an interesting connection between this parable and the parable that comes right before this, too.
Yeah, the parable, in fact, they're really meant to be kind of looked at together in a bigger theological understanding, that it's the parable of the 10 virgins that are waiting for the bridegroom, and they had their lamps with oil, and 5 of them had their lamps full, and they were ready to go, very prepared, and were waiting and watching for the bridegroom, and the 5 others weren't very prepared, didn't have much oil in their lamps, and so they went off to go get more oil. The bridegroom comes, the 5 go into the banquet, and the 5 that were not prepared and waiting were left outside. That parable is really all about waiting and watching for God and looking for where God is in the world today. But Jesus didn't want people to say, okay, well, our job is just to sit around and wait until I return and twiddle our and not do anything. So Jesus wanted to make sure that that wasn't the only message, so he connects this message of the talents to it as well. So the bigger picture is that, yes, we are supposed to prepare our hearts and our minds and wait for God's return and look for God in the world, but we're not just supposed to sit back and wait. We're supposed to be using what God has left entrusted to us, these talents. We're supposed to be at work for God as well as waiting for God. So it's kind of a bigger picture piece. But the talent part is going to be wonderful because you'll get to talk to kids about what it means to have a talent or talents and how might those be used to serve God.
Well, and how do we find those? How do we discover what our own talents and our abilities are, and then how can we plug them in to help other people learn about God?
Yeah, how do we use them?
Yeah.
It's easy to get into sort of the details of why did one get 5 talents and the other only get 2, or the other only 1, or even it's easy to get hung up in the end of the parable where it talks about how the 2 that went out and used their talents were given even more talents and abilities. You might think of that as like I was just telling Beth about my cousin Kai, my nephew Kai, who knows 3 languages since he was a baby. My brother and his wife spoke German, Spanish, and English in the home, and so I remember when he was about 3 or 4 years old, one time I was talking to my brother in German, I think, and finally he stopped and looked up at me and said, "Now we better speak English so Uncle Doug can understand." He uses those language, and so he consequently has grown and has more ability to speak in different languages. That's really a wonderful thing. But it's also easy to get kind of hung up in the idea that the one who didn't use his talent got thrown out into the darkness. Really, it's it has to do with responsibility. Are we faithful with using what God has given to us to use? So, anyway.
Yeah.
The memory verse. What's the memory verse?
Oh, the memory verse is from 1 Peter 4:10. Each one should use whatever gifts they have received to serve others.
Good.
Yep. So that'll tie right in. And our goals and objectives are for kids to understand that God has given each of us abilities according to our own ability, gifts and talents according to our own abilities.
Sure.
One thing that we were reading was saying God doesn't try and put a lake
in a bucket.
Yeah.
Neat image.
He knows what we can handle, and that's what we are given.
Sure.
And then we'll also be working with kids to help them discover what their gifts and talents are, and help them so that they can use those and serve others.
Mm-hmm.
To understand what steward means, meaning given responsibility over something, and to be faithful managers of what we've been given. And we will work with kids to be able to help them be able to describe at least one talent that they have, so that they can feel successful using that. And then to understand that when we use our talents, those they'll grow and they'll multiply. Yeah. And when we don't use them, we lose those. Mm-hmm. So, if we're practicing reading, we get better at reading. If we even practice thinking of things that we're thankful for, or looking around and finding positive things, we get even better at doing that, or giving compliments to people, or practicing piano or a music instrument or something like that. We get better instead of losing those skills. Yeah,
in a couple places we saw that, kind of that use it or lose it kind of thing. I mean, that's true in life, right? If you people that have, surgery on an arm or a leg, and it's in a cast for a while, and you don't use it, what happens? Those muscles just kind of atrophy. They sort of disappear. It's the same way with our spiritual life, or the talents that God has given to us. If we get into a habit of saying, reading devotions every day, or saying our prayers, or whatever it is, it really grows.
Our relationship to God becomes closer and stronger, instead of being farther apart and more distant.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
So then we'll work on that memory verse in First Peter and being able to find the story in the book of Matthew.
Of course. Good.
We're having a lot of fun things again, Pastor Doug.
Well, of course.
You might want to hit the kitchen.
Always.
This time we'll be making hero sandwiches and finding out that ordinary people can be heroes too.
Okay.
We'll be bringing out some toolboxes of
Okay.
different kinds of tools in a storytelling workshop and looking at how everybody has different gifts and abilities and why that's a really good thing.
Yeah.
In art, we're going to make talent bags. So we'll be making these bags that actually have coins in them and writing our talents on them.
Okay.
So we are identifying what our own gifts and talents are. In our music workshop, we're going to be learning how to play chimes and practicing our musical talents and abilities.
Good. Good.
We'll be making a foreign film. A foreign film
Nice.
in our drama workshop.
Can't wait to see it.
And in science, we're going to be taking a look at how kind of the risk-taking aspect and acceptable or appropriate risk-taking, how things don't always go right, or we make mistakes, or it's not the way we thought it would be, but how it's important to try. You know, like you might go up to someone who looks sad and you might try talking to them and they might not respond to you, but you never know how that had a positive impact on that person.
Oh, sure.
And
yeah.
so we're going to be using different kinds of seeds and sprouting seeds. And it might work well for some and not for others, but we're going to give it
You're going to
a Sunday school try.
Good.
Yeah,
Wonderful.
Sunday school try. And then I think it's going to work out for us to even end up with a talent show.
Very good.
Yeah,
How appropriate.
I know.
That'll be fun.
It'll be a lot of fun.
Good. Well, sounds like there's a lot of good things in the works as usual. It's going to be a fun rotation and blessings.
Yeah. And so we hope that you take a moment to think about what your gifts and talents are too, and if you need help or want to talk about how to use them, let us know.
Absolutely. And we'll see you in church.
And Sunday school.